part of it, but after the last well was drilled, 9 months after, or if they had an extension, 2 years thereafter that.
Okay, that's what restored means. I mean,
Yes.
that's a term
That's the term, yeah,
that the department uses.
to my
How about,
understanding,
you
yes.
can put in restored pursuant to and take it to the statutory citation?
Yeah, the restoration citation. Yeah, I always understood restored as the earth disturbance being scaled back, and reclaimed as when the well is done, plugged, and everything is brought back to the original contour.
Restoration. So we had to delete these next two. Basically, because, I'm sorry, Act 9, which went final between our last two meetings, changed the definition. I actually don't know, that's something on page 7, but nothing on page 6.
The water source, Scott, I'm a bit confused as to, in item 1.4, it talks about any other waters used for drilling or completing in a unconventional formation, and then 2, the term does not include flowback or production waters or other fluids. Could be a conflict between those two statements. Use other waters in 4 and use other waters in 2, and they seem to be citing the two.
Sorry on that, but that definition is actually pulled directly from the statute.
Statute, correct? Is there a conflict or not? I don't understand.
Yeah, one seems inclusive and one seems exclusive, so
I don't think that those are contradictory terms. I think that there are some waters that are, I think that 1.4 applies to any water that is used for drilling or completing a well, not including flowback that is reused to drill and complete a well.
7 chooses about other waters and other fluids, so there's no overlap there in your mind.
So you have to look at number 2, small letter 2. So if it's a fluid, including fresh water, of which there is no discharge into waters of this Commonwealth, then it does not count. So one of the areas that people had some questions on was there were treated wastewaters, and they were not being, maybe they're going to go to an underground injection control well or something else, but there was no discharge from the facility to a stream. Therefore, the elimination of that water has no connection. The use of that water has no connection to the environment. You see what I'm saying? That we're concerned about lowering in-stream volumes. Some streams rely on wastewater discharges to support their existing and designated uses. So even though it's the effluent from the sewage treatment plant, we still need to consider that impact because of its connection to the ecosystem. But if you have other systems, and I wish I could give you a great example, it's just not coming to my mind, where the water itself is not proposed to be discharged from the facilities, like a zero discharge waste treatment facility, that
like produced water.
this water could be something else.
Kurt just pointed out that the way this term is used is in the water management plan section. So you're required to get a water management plan for use of water sources. So you don't need a water management plan if you're using flow back production water or these types of other fluids that aren't going to be discharged into the ocean.
It's a pretty limited number of circumstances, but we've run into that. Just wish I could remember what some of the coal bed methane water part of it, but we did have a couple circumstances where people were proposing to take water from facilities that had no discharge. And there's no point in evaluating what the impact on the environment is because it's zero.
Good. Now, 7815C.
Yeah, we've made a number of changes to 7815. And before I get you to see, I want to highlight the change that we're proposing to make to 7815A. The department has been engaged in an electronic well permitting program for some time, and that permit process will be available before the end of these regulations. And in order for this to be a success, we need to make it mandatory. So, much like the production reporting, we propose that all permit applications must be accomplished through by electronic means.
You know, there's a certain group of operators that struggle with that stuff.
I know, well, some of them aren't drilling new wells, but some of them have iPads too. So, but the electronic permitting is absolutely essential for the department to continue to improve not just its own efficiencies. I see this lending to cost savings in the future, but then also data accuracy, of which it has become critically important, that we eliminate the human error of manually moving around data. So while I appreciate that there are a limited number of operators that may be less accustomed to using computers, it's just a process that we need to be able to engage in across the board.
I agree, it's probably a pretty small subset of all of them. Probably the time has come.
So this is, excuse me, this is going to be implemented before the regular time, I think.
Yes. Yeah, we will have.
Guidance document, or how will it be rolled out prior to the regs?
Well, similar to how we will be engaging operators in educational opportunities as to how to use the system. It's going to be a web-based system, so it'll be very user-friendly. I mean, basically, we're talking about taking the forms, putting them up online, trying to have auto-population occur as much as possible. So right now, no number of people are a little frustrated with the duplicative data entry on the plat. So that will no longer occur because we'll just auto-populate the plat. But we'll obviously be offering training on how to do this. But
What's your timing?
well, we're hoping to be doing some testing here by the end of the summer. So this will be offered as a voluntary program, probably for months before we're done.
As a voluntary program and mandatory to the rest of them.
Correct. Correct. So yeah, there'll be I'd say a fairly lengthy period of time where our people will. Correct. And what we'll obviously, one of the things that we're going to be doing across the board for training and outreach is we're going to be recording all of the trainings that we do. Recording them, so that you can go back to our website and have a tutorial, not just some written instruction, but you can actually, be walked through it audially with screenshots and the like. So something like this would really be right for that, where you have a video on doing the well permit application electronically, and people can reference it, whenever they want. Some same things wouldn't happen actually with just for your reference, the erosion sediment control general permit 2. Training is ongoing now, right? Tomorrow, thank you. And our plan then is when Mr. Adams, he's being videotaped, take his presentation materials and polish up the audio portion and have that be available on the website so that new engineering firms that want to become certified for expedited review can just go to that site and review the materials and qualify. So trying to streamline those processes. At the same time, make educational materials available in a easily consumed format for everybody to have a streamlined processes. We obviously eliminated in old B, now C, changing requirement for when information needs to be submitted to the department concerning subsidiaries and parents. It's really tied to the permitting process, and if folks are not applying for new wells, did not see the need to get that information provided to us. So that update information will be provided at the time of permitting. Some of the most significant changes we made here relate to concerns heard over incorporating the PNDI policy into this public resources consideration provision. So what we've done is a couple of things, and the first I think is really a very good idea for the sake of permitting efficiency. And right now, if you have to obtain PNDI clearance as part of getting the erosion sediment control permit for the pad, we will accept that clearance for all of the wells on pad. The issue with threatened or endangered species is land clearing. It's not drilling what at maximum is a 20-inch hole in the surface. So that process can be streamlined.
All right, well, let's jump back up to C and then back down to D. Scott. Sure. Appreciate the improvements you made in the ownership and control thing, but new C now still talks about information identifying parent and subsidiary business entities. This kind of harkens me back to the early days in the Federal Surface Mining Act, where there were ownership and control mandates in that act that took about a decade for the regulatory agency, the Office of Surface Mining, to resolve. A couple lawsuits went back and forth between the industry and the federal government, trying to determine exactly what was meant by ownership and control. In this case, maybe even what is meant by subsidiary business entity. Is that part ownership? What sort of legal relationship are you talking about there with somebody in the parent company owns some stock in a subsidiary business? Is that something that has to be identified then? Or do you have an operating interest? I just don't want to get into this morass where we're going back and forth trying to decide this 5% ownership and another company represent some sort of control that has to be reported. And I don't know that we can resolve that discussing it here today. That may be something we want to go up in one of the subcommittees you mentioned earlier for further discussion. But
Well, I certainly wasn't thinking of joint ventures, and I don't think the legislature was either. I do think that they were thinking of more of a substantial ability to control the actions of another entity, and to avoid, for example, creating almost fictitious businesses to act as your shell in order to to avoid the responsibilities of, say, the parent. But I'd certainly be willing to have more of those discussions if there are terms that could be maybe referenced that have been settled in court. That would be, I would be.
Yeah, might be reference
I
on
would be
that,
making.
but
But as it is, we're quoting law right now.
okay. Back, and dropping down to D. I think you've seen the concern we've received from several different directions. The use in the middle of that paragraph D of the species or critical habitat term, which differs from the actual language that is in the Act, which seems to be other critical communities.
Well, there's two things going on here, you're right. We absolutely must protect the threatened and endangered species and their critical habitat. To not do so, I believe, exposes the department to even federal